Being located inside the TT track, we had to plan our days carefully. One day, as we waited for the road to reopen, we spent 3 hours collecting 12 pounds of blackberries from a nearby hedgerow. Jan at last was offered a teaching job at the Tremode House Young Offenders Institution. Now that we lived in Douglas and I could walk to college each day, we decided to sell the Avenger. We were aware that we never saw our neighbours on 2nd Avenue, so I went down to the town hall and looked up their names on the electoral register and sent them each a Christmas card. We received a number of invitations and much ice was broken. 7 members of the Business Studies staff, Carol Tinkler, Mary Rolfe, Brian Hollingrake, Eric Mungie, David Williams, Mike Casey and I spent a week at Preston Polytechnic learning about computers and the software which we might use in the future. It was a good week and proved to be a good team building exercise. For 4 consecutive years, a French child came to stay with us. Valentine refused to go camping with us. Igor stole and ate Catherine's Easter eggs. But Vanessa, who visited us on 2 occasions, was great. The Director of Education sent me over to Liverpool on a Manx Airlines Otter to visit a computer exhibition and to return with recommendations of the best equipment for a new computer room. On the way back to Speke Airport, I was waiting at a railway station when a train with underground train style sliding doors drew up. As they opened, I saw and heard 2 girls who were surrounded by a gang of young men screaming. I wasn't sure whether they were playing or whether it was serious, but decided to put my foot in the doorway to stop the train moving, then told the girls that they had the opportunity to leave if they wanted. They hesitated, but then got off the train and I let the door go, leaving the men inside. I felt quite relieved, as it could have turned out nasty, and was glad to leave Liverpool as dusk fell. A friend named Muriel Bard knew of a border collie that was looking for a new home and thought of us. And so it was the Crufts Standard Inca came to live with us. Jan took her to the local dog show, which Inca won easily by leading Jan around the course. The following year, other competitors, recognizing her pedigree, insisted that the organisers ban Jan and Inca from the competition. Kathleen, Anthony and Caroline visited us for the New Year, and we did the usual conga in and out of the house at midnight. Anthony kept us all amused with his antics. As Tony, he introduced to us his twin, Toby. He has a terrific collection of all sorts of hats, and I'm still waiting to see his Tommy Cooper routine. Caroline told me that the previous summer she had become a born-again Christian, and she related a story which stayed with me. On a bus she noticed a punk rocker sitting in front of her, and she felt a growing urge to tell him that Jesus loved him. Anyway, the bus arrived at her stop, and she thought that she had lost her chance, but he got off too. So she plucked up courage and stopped him in the street, took a deep breath, and said to him, "Do you know that Jesus loves you?" She waited for his response with trepidation, but there was no need, for he replied, "It's funny you should ask me that. I was just thinking about him." After they'd gone, I visited SPCK and made several purchases, including a book called Is Anyone There? By David Watson. That book led me to seriously consider committing my life to God. I sat down and prayed the prayer that David Watson suggested in his book, and from that moment almost literally took off like a space rocket. My priorities turned upside down. I became an avid reader of every Christian book I could get my hands on. I had a lot of catching up to do, and I also became a painful fanatic as far as Jan was concerned. I attended a Holy Communion service at St. Ninian's Church, and on the way out I heard a friendly voice call, "Hello, Chris." It was Cindy, who I knew from Samaritans and various teachers' meetings. I joined the weekly Bible study group, which was looking at David Watson's book Discipleship, and also an interdenominational service called Celebration at St. John's, where I met Phil Worthington, who had been the landlord of the Tynwald Inn when the jazz group played there. He had had a conversion experience about the same time as me. Over the following year, I began to feel certain changes in my life, at home and at work. Clearly my faith had been formed throughout my life, from baptism and being brought up in a Christian family, but now I was adopting the faith personally. However, I had now become very one-track, following almost exclusively the evangelical point of view. Jan told me that she felt she had lost her best friend. It was then that I knew that I needed to slow down and open up to a wider perspective of Christianity. Each week I met up with Neville Pilling, a fellow lecturer at the college, who was an Anglo-Catholic, and we attended Mass. I also read books that considered the liberal viewpoint of the Church, including The Sea of Faith by Don Cupid. In August we crossed the Irish Sea and met Elizabeth, John, Daniel and Rosemary at Worsley, taking charge of the Lady Eleanor from Egerton narrowboats at £526 for the week. Soon we were crossing the Manchester Ship Canal on our canal adventure around the Cheshire Ring. At Kidsgrove we went through the Harecastle Tunnel and back for the fun of it. Having enjoyed the Sutton Aqueduct and the Peak Forest Canal, it was night time when we arrived at Duckinfield, and having seen a number of dubious characters around, decided to moor up in a fenced-off area on the opposite side to the towpath. There we saw some narrowboats belonging to a local hire firm that had gone out of business, being offered for £5,000 each. Finally, we reached the infamous Rochdale Canal, where we were charged a £20 entrance fee to find that the locks had not been serviced for years. How we managed to open some of them, I don't know. Before boarding our boat for the Isle of Man, we attended Cousin Paul and Angela Bowker's wedding. Back on the island, Mary visited us and gave us the usual heart attack as she left at the last minute to catch the boat.
Window cleaner.